how I'm moving with this hobby. This is a CZ50. This is stamped from 1970. Is the stamping on the slide? That's where you'll see the date stamping where it's accepted. And this pistol is really a good looking, awesome vintage looking pistol. It was actually it was created in the 40s. It was incepted in the 40s, but wasn't started production until the early 50s. And this is a CZ50. If you look at the notation, it's a VZOR 50, and it gets kind of confusing because it says caliber 50 caliber, but what it actually means is caliber 7.65 in the circle there with the comma. That's 7.65, as I said, with the European designation. They don't say 32 ACP like we do here in the United States. But this one was made in Czechoslovakia. It's a really it's basically a Walter PPKS kind of a knockoff. Maybe, I don't know if a knockoff might be a strong term, but it's a similar blowback design. If you compare it to a Walter PPK, it looks very similar. Although, the looks are so, I just love the way the firearm looks. It just looks, I'm actually in love with this pistol. I didn't really think I would like it. I was kicking around buying, I was on the hunt for a Walter PP. I already own a PPKS. Which I did a video on, the late 90s Interarms, USA made Ranger. It was an effort between Interarms and Ranger, who in Alabama manufactured the pistol. That it's a neat firearm, but if you're collecting vintage, you kind of want to go back to the roots. So I've been on the hunt for a Walter PP, and then I got kind of hung up between the Menieren French-made Walter PP. And the German-made ones. I mean, I think everybody wants the German-made pistol. With these pistols, you want to kind of go back to its origins. However, with tons of research, I found out that the Menieren has a long, cool, neat history also. That firearm I'll get into because I did acquire that when I acquired this last week. At the same time, I bought that one from a private owner. This one I bought from Old Western. Oh, God, I can't remember the name. It was a place in a surplus place that deals with a lot of classic surplus pistols. I'll have to get the name of that place. That escapes me now. But I found the name. I found it just through a search, random search, and ordered it. And at first, I'm kind of a stickler for condition, but when you buy military surplus, especially these type of pistols that are blued, and this thing traveling from 1970 was probably most likely this was a police turn-in pistol. And you can see it's got a lot of holster wear and just general wear, and it's got marks on it and stuff. But you're going to have to just accept that when you're buying military surplus. Would you want a pristine one? Yes, you would. But and I'll get into, you can touch up the bluing on this with cold bluing like from Birchwood Casey. Which this right here is this is the super blue. This is there also is a product called Perma Blue, but this is a little bit more stronger, and maybe I'll get into that. I'm going to try it out just to see if I can blend it. Sometimes the blending seems, from what I can see on the reviews and the YouTube videos of people doing it, sometimes comes out very well, sometimes comes out a little blotchy. I guess it just depends how you do it. Maybe take some very fine steel wool to it after you apply it, maybe in some gun oil, may make it blend in a little bit better. So I'm going to try that and see how it looks. But, you can't be too picky with these firearms because, again, they are military surplus. I mean, look at the age, 1970. It's got the bluing's worn off on the barrel. I've checked it out, by the way. It's cleared. I haven't even loaded it. It's got an 8-round magazine. Interesting. That this firearm, unlike the Walter PPK and the PP, when you eject it, it's got the same ejection near the grip on the left-hand side button. It's got, and this one doesn't fully drop because there's an actual spring that kind of puts a little bit of tension right here. Because I've taken it apart, take the grips off. I think these are Bakelite or polymer or Bakelite, but they kind of seem reminiscent of Bakelite grips, which is kind of odd for 1970. When this pistol started in 1950, I could see them being Bakelite, but 1970, I would have thought they would have switched to polymer, but everybody seems to refer to it as much information as I could find on it. Relic information that's still Bakelite, which is kind of surprising. Anyways, being a surplus firearm, it does have a crack towards the upper. I think this is the end towards it, and it's getting kind of loose. There's a little bit of a crack in the top of the polymer or whatever. It's a Bakelite pistol grip. So I contacted the seller, and it sounds like they just want me to take a picture of it and send them the photo, and then they'll send me a replacement grip. I'm sure they probably have a lot of them from the surplus. They probably take in hundreds at a time, and they probably go through them and weed out the ones that are in good shape, and probably make parts out of the ones that are don't work or don't fire. So they said they basically said this was a grade 1, 70 to 80% finish. They did have a grade 2, but I didn't know how much I would like this pistol, but now I wish I would have got the grade 1, the one for about $30 more. They said it was basically, that was 80 to 90%, I believe it was. But either way, it's fine because they're all going to have finish issues. And this is a good starting point, because now, like watches, especially vintage older watches that are in a little rough shape, I like the challenge of trying to restore them. So it's going to be interesting to see if I can put some of the bluing back on just for the protection's sake and just to make it look a little bit nicer. Of course, with me, I want to kind of restore it back to the factory look. So it looks like everything was blued, including the screws, which, the bluing's worn off, and the ejector. This is the injector, or I'm sorry, this is the chamber notification that basically tells you there's a round in the chamber. Let's see if I can pop it out here. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. So when there's a round in the chamber, that's kind of let you know that there's, it's loaded, and there's one in the ready to go in the chamber. It's loaded. So, it's really cool. I've been playing around with more of this as far as cleaning it up. I wouldn't say playing. Of course, you don't play with guns, but as far as cleaning, because it was extremely dirty, and it had some really, really smelly, thick, gooey oil, or I don't know if it was cosmoline, but it smelled like oil, and it stinks to high heaven. You can tell this firearm's probably sat for a long time. It was just really nasty gun oil, but it was really thick, and the barrel was filthy. So I took it apart, cleaned it. I have M Pro 7 gun oil, which is like an LPX. It kind of cleans and oils at the same time. And it's done a nice job. And I've kind of, took the grips off. They were saturated with oil on the back. Just, this one screw, of course, takes the grip off. Grip handles on both sides. But, there's a screw. But anyways, I really like this pistol. It's really surprised me how much I really like it. I can't wait to get to the range and try it out. That's the other thing too, is you want to do that kind of right away. You want to take it to the range, especially with these surplus. The company said that, they test them and it does fire. It does work, but you want to do that after you buy like a surplus firearm or a used firearm, just to make sure if you have any problems, you can go back to the seller. And I'll do a review of the PP I also purchased along with the same time frame. The FFL did the transfer of both firearms for me. So, this is just a kind of continuation of my collecting of vintage watches, vintage Rolex, vintage Omega. I just love the vintage stuff so much better because of the history of these pistols. If they could speak, it's just amazing the stories they could tell. It just harks back to a different time, and being in Czechoslovakia and they make really good firearms too. CZ is a very good company. They make very good quality firearms, but the old school look of this and the steel, and it's pretty heavy. It's not loaded, like I said, but it's a hefty firearm. It's got a little bit of weight to it, especially if you're used to carrying polymer wonders today with the compared now, this is a 32, like I said, a 7.65 or 32. Hold on one second. I'm going to give you a comparison. And this is a 32. This is a Keltec P32, and I'm going to do a review on this one also. But you can see both 7.65 or in a US 32 ACP. And look at the size difference. Isn't that amazing? So there's your modern there's your modern wonder of polymer and stainless steel slide. And man, this thing is just super light. It holds, let's see, this one's 7 rounds, 8 with one loaded. This is 8. You can get 9 if you have one loaded in the chamber. But this one is cool because you could throw it in your pocket if you have a concealed carry. You can get into debates if 32 is enough of a caliber for protection, but I think history speaks for itself with this round. It's got a long history of getting the job done as far as what's needed. Hopefully, you never have to do it, but it's there in case you need it. So, but it does have a long history in Europe, especially of for the police carrying it and military. So, but I'll get into that firearm. But yeah, this is just a really cool vintage piece. Just and ironically, this this is the 50 CZ50, but they make a CZ70, which replaced this in 1970. So this was the year right when they were making the transition to the CZ70, and they're both identical. Almost all the parts will interchange. It's just the grips are different. They're more like a different pattern across the grips. These are the older CZ50 grips. It's more like just a different pattern. I think these are more attractive looking of a grip. It kind of it wraps around the back. There's your safety. Unlike the Walter, which is on the slide, this is your safety. It does have a decocker. So again, it's been checked. So there's your ready to fire. Okay. So there's your decocker. There's your safe. So now when I first got it, you can actually, it was so built up with gunk and just all kinds of garbage and gook in there with the thick oil that this was actually almost going further, almost going past the safety. But now since I put this M Pro 7 in there and kind of been working it through there, everything's just kind of working the way it should now. But this has a decocker just like the Walter PP. So you go a little bit further down, and then it decocks the firearm. So it's very, very Walter PPK like, but it's just got a really cool look and hefty all steel gun. So yeah, this firearm reminds me, as I've got into collecting more vintage of firearms now. This one reminds me of the Rolex Explorer 16570. I bought a Polar. I avoided that watch like the plague because I thought it was boring. I didn't like the way it looked at first many years ago. And then I finally took a chance and bought one when a good deal came up. And then when I put it on my wrist, I just, I was like, man, why did I wait so long to buy it? This firearm has got that same feeling. I mean, I finally found the Walter PP that I've been looking for, and that one dates to 1952. It's a Minier, and I'm going to do a review on that next. But this one is just something about it that's just so neat. Just that vintage look and everything. So, and it's neat. It's just, I think the other thing too is I kind of like restoring things, not removing the patina, but just getting it back to a factory type shape close to it, not perfection. Because if you look at a lot of these from on the used market, they're all wearing in about the same way because you got holster. They use a lot of other holsters. So if it's going in and out of a holster at the end of the day, a police officer in Czechoslovakia, at the end of the day, he goes home or, puts in his locker, it's gonna, you're gonna get the in and out wear marks, and that's where the bluings come off. So it'll be a little bit fun to see if I can just kind of touch it up and just make it look a little bit nicer. I'm not going to take away a lot of the patina though, but it's just kind of neat to kind of restore things like this and just get it back to maybe, a little bit closer to factory specs. I think what I'll do is I'll blue that screw. I'll try the cold bluing. The best way is the hot blue. A lot of people, if I really wanted to go crazy with this and bring it back to OEM, when it was built, I would probably have to, you could do it at home with, there's some methods you could do hot bluing, but it's more like you'd have to send it out to do it correctly. And then you'd have to make sure you match the finishes because then you have to find references on it. And it's like the finish is worn off the chamber indicator. And I've kind of been searching whether or not that's blued or if that's like a polished silver. But I think the screw in here, even though a lot of them in the used market are worn and they kind of look silver, I think originally they were blued. It's just from the rubbing probably of your hand and as you're using the firearm. And or just handling it, and just the wear and tear out of the holsters, because you could see a lot of the blues were off here. So, and this is it's a different tone. It looks like they polished this before they blew it, and this is a little bit more rougher of a surface, more like a matte. So it looks like they wanted a matte finish. Matte here. The top of the slide is matte, of course, because kind of there for the sights to block glare. Yeah, it's really cool firearm. I think it's just a really nice vintage piece, and like I said, I'm going to touch it up, and maybe I'll show the after effect of doing some touch up if I can get something satisfactory. Like I said, I have the Birchwood Casey Super Blue, and then I bought the Perma Blue, which is a little less stronger. I'm going to play around in certain spots where, just kind of test them out first, see what they look like. So, there's another importer mark right there. So, and then some of these, if you look at some of these surplus firearms, you'll have maybe a second importer mark right here, or one of the, and it kind of makes it look nasty. This one's nice because they engraved it right underneath here where you wouldn't see it as much. So you have more of that shiny finish. Really cool though. Like I said, the one grip on the one side is starting to crack, but I'll talk to the seller and get a picture sent to them, and it sounds like they'll send me another grip panel. So it's not cracked off yet, but it looks like it's ready to go. So, yep, pretty neat. Really like it a lot. So if you like that, if you're interested in me doing a couple more videos on some other firearms, just let me know and put it in the comments. And please subscribe if you like the content. Okay, thanks.